going to talk about the shoot now. The shoot includes the stem and the leaves, and we will talk about the arrangement of tissues in them separately. But right now, we're just going to kind of give a little introduction into their primary structure and sort of general development. The stem functions are mainly for support of the leaves and the meristems, which include the buds, the lateral buds, and the terminal buds. Conduction of materials, mainly water and sugars, and then the production of lateral shoots, including branches and flowers. And the leaf function is to present the maximum photosynthetic surface for photosynthesis while keeping water loss down, because its two main functions are photosynthesis and transpiration. The leaf may also function to store materials like starches and things like that, at least temporarily, for the plant, and also for hormone production. So we're going to just kind of look at how a plant grows. Mainly it's going to grow via the apical meristems, and we will talk more about that in just a second. And it's going to produce, it's basically produces leaves and bud primordia from the apical meristem. So let's just kind of overall look at that. Of course, this is the shoot system, and it has the stem and the leaves, and then it's going to have the terminal bud or the apical meristem, and that is going to produce buds, primordia, which are in the leaf axils, and then also the leaf primordia. And in this drawing, they're showing you a node where a leaf comes off and another node where a leaf comes off, and the space between that is the inner node. And that's something that we kind of talked about before. This is also showing you the tissue arrangement, but we will go over that a little bit more later. But just so you kind of know the term of producing the leaves and the bud primordia from another node, in other words, the distance from here to there is called a phytomere. It is the actual repeating unit of a plant, and it is called, an internode in terms of the stem distance, but the actual phytomere includes the bud primordia and leaf primordia and the stem. So they're kind of synonymous. Sorry, that's easy for me to say, but they are not exactly. Like the internode is just referring to the distance, whereas the phytomere is referring to the actual plant structure. All right, now let's just briefly talk about how a apical meristem, in this case, this is showing you an actual microscope view of the apical meristem in lateral cross section. So, in other words, if a plant was growing, it'd be crossing through it long ways. So this is the apical meristem. You can see the cells are actively doing mitosis here, and as it does mitosis, it's going to lay down some tissue that can still do mitosis, which is going to be the bud primordia, and it will start growing the leaves outward. Now, looking at the apical meristem, there's three basic areas, and they are kind of generally called L1, L2, L3. In the L1 area, the cells are dividing kind of laterally or anticlinally, and what that means is they're kind of spreading outward, this way, as opposed to just going, being laid downward and moving the apical meristem up, opposite of what we talked about with the roots. And you can see that happens generally in the L2 layer too, and then the middle layer is more vertical, or that is up and down, like we would expect in a plant. Now remember that wherever the cells end up, that's what they're going to become. So if they end up hanging out here, they're going to become the bud primordia. If they end up like going along the leaf, they're going to become leaf. If they end up being on the outside of the plant, in other words, down here, they're going to end up being the epiderm. and then the next layer M is going to be the cortex, and then in the middle it may be other types of tissue like the vascular tissue or pith in the stem of a eudicote. So anyway, again, where those initials end up and become derivatives of the tissues, remember protoderm, ground meristem, and procambium, they will basically be differentiated based on where they are.